Hi everybody, it's Monday, January 17th, 2011. Thanks for stopping by. I haven't made a video in a while because my last two videos I think are extremely important. Those two videos basically sum up what I want people to know, and I wanted people to see those two videos for as long as possible, so I didn't make any other videos that might distract people away from them. The first video was, basically showing the extreme hatred that people have for Muslims right now, basically because of their race. They'll try to say it's because of religion, but on the other hand, they know that most Muslims are black and brown people. They know that Muslims are not white, they're not European. And, right now people have the same attitude towards illegal aliens. And why is that? Because they know illegal aliens are Mexican, which means Hispanic. They're not white. It would be an interesting exercise just to try to imagine what if illegal aliens were mostly Canadian. Would people be worried about Canadian immigrants the way they're worried about Mexicans? Just something to think about. So the other video I made that I thought was really important was just showing Palestinian children and showing what some people, some of the hate mongers want you to believe about them. When people say that, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, when people talk about Muhammad being a pedophile, for instance, they're not talking about Muhammad at all. They could not care less about some crime that might have been committed 1400 years ago. They couldn't care less if Muslim children are blown into tiny bits today, much less sexually abused, over 1,000 years ago. So that is totally dishonest. What they really are talking about is Muslims, and they'll tell you that Muslims are pedophiles because of Muhammad. And what they're doing is they're calling Muslim men, women, children, and babies pedophiles so that those men, women, children, and babies can be murdered without anybody caring, which I think is just the most repugnant, repulsive thing that you could do. I mean, for someone to behave in that sort of way, it's sort of creepy actually, because it gives you a glimpse of some real evil. Maybe they don't realize it, but that's what's operating through them, is a real potent sort of malignancy, malevolence, I should say, and in a way a malignancy. It's like a cancer that grows this hate, and those who push hate are partially responsible when people act on that hate and stab Muslim cab drivers in the face, or hit Muslim women with rocks in the head, throw things at them, threaten their lives, call them whores, call them pedophiles, burn mosques, pee on the walls in mosques during religious services. I mean, these things are happening, folks. This isn't some sort of academic, theoretical exercise. This is what is really happening in the world today. So if you are going around trying to spread hate, when people do these things, you've got blood on your hands. Okay? Literally. And maybe you're not the only one doing it, so you're not the only one responsible, but you are partially responsible. And likewise, if you spread hate against Jews, if someone goes out and attacks a synagogue, you're partially responsible for that. You helped make it happen. If you push prejudice against black people, when someone doesn't get a job because they're black, you're partially responsible for that, because you helped to push those ideas that caused people to suffer because of the way they were born, which of course nobody has any control over. So those are my two videos that I think are really important. First, that we understand the hate that is represented by Thunderfool and some of those people, and second, that we understand that Palestinians are human beings, and Muslims are human beings. They're not animals. They're not savages. They're not all the same. They're not a separate race of people. They are the way that their culture and their parents taught them to be. And, and their parents were not evil when they taught them to be that way. Their parents, grew up in a culture, internalized it, and they said, okay, this is a good thing. Let me teach my children so they can be good people, right? And people will tell me, oh, I don't hate all Muslims. And I'm not a racist because Islam ain't a race. And I don't hate all of them, but their parents are brainwashing them, right? It doesn't make any sense, okay? If it's just the extremists that are bad, then why do you have a problem with people teaching their children about Islam? If you're not a racist, why are you calling people sand niggers? Okay? And why are you saying that they're all the same and that they don't love their children? Right? Or that they're evil? Why are you saying these things if you're not a racist? Do you really believe that Muslims are all white people? Is that what you think? Do you think that, that when you tell me that you hate illegal aliens, do you think I don't know what you really mean? That you hate Mexicans? I mean, it's so obvious, okay? So don't even try it with me, okay? Don't even try it. I know what you're doing. And, the real thing I wanted to kind of touch on today is I saw Pentagon, the General Counsel for the Pentagon yesterday, talking about how he knew that, or he thought that, Martin Luther King would support the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I just wanted to say that, I believe that Martin Luther King was probably the greatest political leader that we ever had in this country, and moral leader as well. Martin Luther King had great moral authority because he was the real deal. He was a real Christian. And he was, he wasn't someone from the outside who was trying to help an oppressed minority. He was of that oppressed minority, and he was fighting for their rights. He knew firsthand what it was like to be discriminated against, and to be a second-class citizen, and to be an object of an apartheid system, which is what we had. In America, they never called it this, but we had an apartheid system, and he was one of the people that was intended to be separated out and put aside and thrown away by that system. Okay? And he spoke out against war. He spoke out against the Vietnam War. He spoke out against all violence, even against violent resistance to apartheid. He spoke out against that. Now, if he didn't understand his own community struggling for its own freedom in a violent manner, what makes you think he's going to understand the Afghanistan or the Iraq War? Doesn't that seem a little bit far-fetched? And if he spent his whole life and gave his life, and quite arguably knew he was going to give his life, fighting against apartheid, what makes you think he is a big supporter of apartheid in Israel? To the point where if you say apartheid is wrong, you're a racist. Or, what makes you think he would support any of the apartheid systems in the world? Or any war? There's just no way. There's no way. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Martin Luther King. I'm not going to say I know exactly what he would do. But I'm going to say that it makes absolutely no sense to me for Martin Luther King to support something that he died to stop. That doesn't make any sense. And more than that, to speak for him after he's dead and to claim that he supports those things is one of the most despicable arguments that you could make. So don't ever let anybody tell you that Martin Luther King supports the Iraq War or supports Israel and what it's doing to Palestinians or anything like that. Don't let them say that. If someone says that to you, tell them they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Thanks for watching.